Welcome to GrassRoot Ohio, conversations with everyday people working on important issues here in Columbus and all around Ohio. I'm Carolyn Harding, and today I'm talking with Morgan Harper and Micah Mitchell, organizers for the new grassroots organization, Columbus Stand Up. Morgan Harper is the founder of the new grassroots organization, Columbus Stand Up, and most recently was a grassroots candidate to represent Ohio's 3rd Congressional District. Previously, she was a vice president at Local Initiative Support Corporation, the nation's largest community development financial institution. Morgan also worked at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as a senior advisor to the first director. Micah Mitchell is a graduate student at The Ohio State University, studying social work and public administration. He has a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Criminal Justice from the University of Cincinnati. Micah is passionate about activism, advocacy, and direct service. He aspires to work in policy reform, divesting from the prison industrial complex, and investing in community care. Welcome today to GrassRoot Ohio.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So we have little more than a week before Election Day on November 2, 2020. Your organization is way busy right now. Can you tell us what you're working on right now?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having us, Carolyn. So I'll start and Micah can plug in whatever I leave out. So Columbus Stand Up is all about really working on a lot of the things that we were focusing on, especially in the last phase of the campaign after the coronavirus hit. Obviously, folks have a lot of needs that are greater than just political right now, including making sure they're staying protected with coronavirus. So we've been distributing masks to different community organizations, and at all of our events, we've distributed over 15,000 of them. But especially on that lane of political accountability, guiding people through the political process and what is a somewhat complicated voting process, especially when you're thinking of voting by mail for the first time or keeping up with the dates with early voting. We really try to implement grassroots strategies for doing that. So we've been holding community events to register to people to vote before that deadline passed, but then now also just making sure they're getting all of that information directly through lit drops, working with other community partners, and organizing rides to the polls, which is one of the big initiatives that Micah's been involved in as well. We have a lot of people that might not necessarily have an ability to get to Morse Road to early vote, and we want to make sure that no one's voice is not being heard because of any logistical barrier. So we've had a lot of volunteers sign up, and then also now really focused on rider recruitment for those who need rides to get to early vote or drop off their ballot.
So Micah, tell us a little bit about this, getting rides to vote.
We've been organizing to get a group of volunteers together to allow people to get to the polls who might not necessarily have a ride otherwise. We have about 80 or so volunteers willing to do that who've been through an orientation. They have been provided with masks and a sign so that they can be identified by the rider when they pull up. And like Morgan said, now we're just trying to find people who need those rides. When we've been doing literature drops in different areas in Columbus, we've been passing out the flyers in hopes that people will see those at their door and reach out to us if they need help.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the show, but I'd like you to give our listeners a contact number right now, or email or website, so that folks that are listening right now can write it down and they'll have a chance to hear it again later on. If they need a ride.
I need to get to the place of having this number memorized, but I've got it. Okay, 614-259-7391 is the number that folks can text or call to arrange a ride. And
Say
then
it
also,
one more time, nice and slow.
Okay, 614-259-7391. Or they can just go to columbusstandup.org, and there's a link there to reach out to us as well.
So people are actually taking you up on this.
Yes, yeah, we've already had some people that have signed up to ride, and we did a couple test cases with that, just working out the logistics of it and our system on the back end. And then also we have a few community partners who are, they already have a service population that they work with, and they want to, engage our rides operation to be able to get folks to vote. So for example, we're working with a partner who organizes in the Bhutanese Nepali community. A lot of people live very far out east, Blacklick, which is not close to Morse Road. And so we're working with them to try to arrange like rides en masse a little bit to get them to vote.
What gave you the inspiration to do this, the rides to the polls?
Yeah, like everything, it's very organic. So, and a real grassroots effort. So actually, I was on a call that Faith and Public Life organizes every month. Their Interfaith Justice Calls, I believe is the name of them. And we had Pastor Joel from the Mennonite Church that mentioned he had a couple people in his congregation that would be willing to drive if anyone was organizing that. There was another woman on the call, Joni, who's from Indivisible 12, who's one of our partners in doing this, who said, hey, that's something we should be thinking about. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if anyone is doing that. Let's just pull it together. And like I said, I mean, during the extended campaign period, we really did see just how it's one little thing that might pop up that will be the difference between someone voting or not. And so we need to eliminate as many barriers as possible as a community to make sure that we have the biggest turnout of our lives, honestly, with this election. But ideally, we also, and this is part of our next phase strategy with policy changes that we'd be advocating for, that we have a system that makes it easier for all of us to vote in the first place.
Definitely. This election cycle has proven that our process is very complicated and too difficult for everyone to navigate.
Intentionally so.
Yeah, I'm all about being registered the moment you turn 18. That's how I feel we should do. But that's simple, and we're not there yet. But
automatic voter registration would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Are you going to be helping people out on election day as well?
We have a lot of drivers that have said they'd be willing and able to do that. I mean, of course, then we have more dispersed polling locations, though they would be closer, most likely, to where people are actually living. So a little bit easier. Oh, look, and Kwesi is joining us.
Yeah, we have another organizer, Kwesi Lo. Welcome.
Hi, sorry for being late.
No worries, glad to have you. We're
Thank
just
you.
in the middle. We're just getting going on our conversation, and I was just asking Morgan if you were going to be providing help on election day with rides.
Yeah, and I was just saying, yeah, I mean, I think we have people who are willing to do that. So it's all about the demand. If we have folks that need rides, then we're not going to be stopping. I think everybody is trying to do as much as they can to get as many people to turn out as possible on November 3rd as well. And it's not just president, that takes up a lot of the air in the room always that, a lot of us are thinking about, but we have a lot of really critical down ballot races now too. And we spend a lot of time educating people, through what we held a citizen forum, for example, to let them know about some of these other issues down ballot that might not get as much attention in the press.
Got it. So welcome, Kwesi. How do I pronounce your name correctly?
Kwesi.
Kwesi, welcome.
Thank you.
I'd like to know how you got involved with Columbus Stand Up.
Well, it was kind of an idea that came from the campaign that Morgan ran for Congress in the primaries in 2020. And we obviously didn't get the result that we wanted, but we just wanted to keep that momentum going. So just in conversations about how keeping our folks engaged, it was something that just kind of organically came up. It's almost like a no-brainer. It seemed like the natural progression of the energy that we created from the campaign. Morgan spearheaded that idea. I think originally one of the ideas was to just keep the team that we created together, that we created that Morgan created, for the primaries, and the energy that we had was just really phenomenal. It was uncanny. I can hardly remember ever being on a team with people that were so I come from different, diverse areas in life and everything, but also had a very sorry for the I'm working right now as well, but together, unfortunately, we weren't able to keep everybody on the campaign together, but we did continue that momentum.
Excellent. I want to ask you also, Micah, how you got involved and what are you bringing to the table to this group? What are your focus? What's your issues that you really want to make sure you guys deal with?
Sure. So I am a graduate student at The Ohio State University. I've been there since I started a couple months ago in the fall for social work and now public administration. Part of the requirement for the program is that we complete volunteer hours. And I knew when I saw that I wanted it to be something that I really had a passion for. Direct service, community care, and grassroots organizing specifically. And coincidentally, maybe a day after I started looking for opportunities, I saw an article, I think it was in Columbus Underground, about Morgan starting her grassroots organization, and knew at that time that I wanted to be a part of it. I sent her an email and I've been involved since then. It's kind of evolved from just volunteer hours to really being a major part of my life right now, just because I really align with everything that we are doing for the community.
All right. Let's see, Morgan. So I've been following you since you kicked off your campaign for the Ohio's 3rd Congressional District, primarying Joyce Beatty, which was a really bold thing to do. And now you're really on the grassroots level, working, just to help get people who don't have transportation to get to the polls. Are there some other initiatives and actions that you guys are doing besides the getting folks to the polls?
I think the other big thing that we've been doing are the community events. And we've been doing community events that weren't just focused on voter outreach. I mean, we always tried to have a voter registration component to it, like I was referencing before. But really, this was an idea that Kwesi and I had coming out of the protests that have been happening this, the spring, summer, into the fall. The idea that, people need a place to come together post-protest to talk about what's going on, what are their concerns. And we wanted to create that forum, because one of the tenets that I believe is, until we're coming together and talking about what our top issues are, and also like what we think are the solutions that are going to address those issues, you can't really be an informed voter. And so, we hear a lot of messaging around vote, 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 it's your duty, but it's like, okay, but what am I voting for? We also say a lot about accountability. What does accountability look like? And I think we have become, as a society, again, by design, there are forces at work to make sure that we have become disconnected from the political process. And so we have a re-education to do, really. But it has to be a re-education that's rooted, to me, in relationships of trust and at the grassroots level about what are we shooting for, what are the policies that are going to do something about it, so folks can go in to the ballot box, an informed voter, empowered voter, and making decisions that are in the best interest of what they perceive to be for their community.
What are some of the issues that you've been educating the folks at these events that people are going to be voting on in this election?
Well, one of the things that's been really interesting to me, and I'd be interested in Kwesi and Micah's thoughts as well, that comes up a lot, of course, is police accountability, police brutality. But interesting, I say, because, when I ask people like, okay, well, what races that are on the ballot this November, are you aware of any that most impact that issue? Who's running that will have the most power over doing something about addressing that issue, stopping police violence in our community? And most people don't know. They don't know necessarily that there's a competitive prosecutor's race right now. They don't know that the current prosecutor has been in office for my entire life. They don't know that there's an issue on the ballot that is the result of a lot of activism around police accountability related to the Civilian Review Board. And so, I want to come, and I think we want to come not in a spirit of judgment about that, because again, I think it's totally rational that folks aren't as aware of these things, but in a spirit of education, like, hey, let's connect this dot. And then that hopefully is a lesson that folks take with them forever, that, I do need to take a step back and think through, okay, this is my issue, who's running? And also I would posit, no matter who's running for what is their view on police accountability, for example, if that's your top issue? That's another lesson we want to get through to people, because if they're running for something and if they win, they've got a platform and they should be using it in the way that you think reflects the interests of our community.
This is GrassRoot Ohio, and I'm Carolyn Harding, and today I'm talking with Morgan Harper, Micah Mitchell, and Kwesi Lowe. and they are organizers with the new grassroots group called Columbus Stand Up. To continue that, you set that up, Morgan, but who is the prosecutor that is more open to shutting down police violence? And what are the issues that that people need to vote for that might help? Is it issue 2? Is it TIAC? Tell us what you're talking about. Micah,
Yes.
do you want to catch that one?
I'll relay that to Morgan. I think that she probably has way more knowledge about that. She actually just held a forum regarding this issue with the Freedom Bloc, and they specifically talked about this in great length. So I'll give it to her.
Morgan, go for it.
Yeah, and I'll pause. If Kwesi does want to say, I know that he and I have talked at length about all these things.
Yeah,
so
I'd like to have his take too.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to start or you want me to start.
Go ahead, Morgan.
I can start.
Yeah, I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what you were saying as far as like one of the purposes for Columbus Stand Up for me, just being able to allow people to see Morgan, and the more events that we do, we start to attract other elected officials are starting to just show up, people who actually hold office. But for people to, because obviously we were all very disappointed that Morgan didn't win in the.
Oops, there goes your system.
He froze. Well, I'll
somebody who is going to continue to push. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I lost it for a minute.
Now we can hear you.
But to give people the opportunity. To give people the opportunity to actually talk with somebody who can represent them at a national level, and to kind of get an idea of what type of questions to ask and what those conversations can be like, as opposed to never having an opportunity to talk with your congresswoman, especially on a real personal level. Like, that's the biggest thing for me, is to just kind of show people what it looks like to have people that you don't, not voting the lesser of two evils, but actually having someone that you're excited to vote about or vote for. Just showing people that candidate, giving people the opportunity to meet that candidate, and then also meet people who are currently in those offices, and to just see the difference between the two.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I'll just build off of that. I mean, I've been really focused on the federal policy level. That's kind of where my professional experience has been. And obviously I ran for a federal seat, but I live here too, right? And I do have an understanding of policy, and I want to provide that service almost to people to think through some of these down ballot races. And so, on the police issue, which was something that we had on our platform, because it's obvious that you should have something like that on your platform when we've had so many people in Columbus, not just in other parts of the country that have gotten more national coverage, who have been killed by the police. And clearly that, to me, isn't a result that any of us, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, really is comfortable with. And so, when we look at the prosecutor race, for example, not to say the lesser of two evils argument, but Ron O'Brien, he's been in office for a really long time. These killings have happened under his watch. There haven't been indictments. And so we already have evidence of what his take is on this issue, right? And we have Gary Tyack that, hasn't necessarily put out like a huge amount of detail in his platform, which is something that we talked about in the Citizen Forum that we co-hosted with Freedom Bloc. But he is saying that he comes with a spirit of reform. He is saying that he wants to bring more accountability. And to me, and what I'm hearing from people is, well, that's worthy of a shot, because we already know where we've been, and we know we want to go somewhere different. But as long as you go into that vote with this mentality of, well, this is why you're running, and this is why we're trying to elect you, then you have something to actually hold Gary Tyack accountable for as well. It's like, well, did anything change, right? And then, on issue 2, the Civilian Review Board, it's a policy that even folks who are campaigning for it recognize has its limitations. And again, something we talked about in our Citizen Forum is a lot of the devil is in the details of what happens with the FOP contract once it's renegotiated, who is on the board, how are they selected, how free are they to speak out? All of those things are really relevant to just, the efficacy of a civilian review board, citizen review board. But ultimately, we have to have some of these structural changes in the contract, addressing qualified immunity at the federal level, having state policy that will apply these types of changes across all jurisdictions, so you don't have to advocate for every single municipality in order to really bring an end to these types of police killings.
Excellent. So it's you're advocating to support Gary Tyack. That's his name, right? Gary?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Gary Tyack, and you're advocating for the issue 2, even though they're not perfect, they're a step towards better than what we have right now.
Yeah, and not even, and I don't see the role of Columbus Stand Up, for example, like right now, we haven't made any formal endorsements, but I want people to have full information as they make their decision about, who and what they want to vote for. And that was the role of the Citizen Forum, we featured 3 community members, one serving as kind of like a fact checker role to bring, to light. We had videos that were from the campaigns, and then we had the focus on the citizens discussing, okay, well, what's our take on what's been said? What would be our considerations as we're thinking about how we might vote? And then also, crucially, what you're referencing, and what's our follow-up, right? Because yeah, the vote is just the beginning, but what comes after that, and what do we need to continue to be engaged in, pay attention to make sure we get the results that we want?
Okay, I see. So you're not endorsing, you are educating and wanting more people to be engaged. And like Kwesi was saying, to actually interact with the people that are going to be making our laws.
Exactly.
Excellent.
It shouldn't be distant. They are us. They should be us. We are them. We have the power. And there should be no deference or intimidation there. These are people that we are paying to do things for us.
And to be a lot more accessible than they have been.
Exactly.
I see that you're collaborating with other grassroots groups, especially on this drive to the polls. Can you elaborate how you got connected with these folks and why you chose to work with these folks?
Yeah, well, one, I love working with people. I think one of the things that's been really liberating post-campaign is that folks don't have to be quite as nervous about working with me because it's not political. Well, our organization, I should say, it's not a campaign, though I think everything is political. But yeah, so one of the key early partners, Ohio Women's Alliance, we've been working with on voter outreach. So hosting a text bank actually tomorrow with Selena West, that's going to be great, reaching out to women across the state. And then we also are partnering with Indivisible 12, like I said, organically, just through that Faith in Public Life call, because they have been out there, like crazy trying to get as many people as possible registered, and now also and getting them good voter information. We've been partnering, Step in the Right Direction, for example, is our partner on the West Side event. They work with a lot of people who are leaving the criminal justice system, helping to, get established in the community. Kwesi's on the board of that organization, Kayla Davis, the executive director. Somali Youth Foundation, another, great partner in some of our early efforts with the community events. So, really the possibilities are endless. I always am trying, and, I think we all have this spirit of, we don't want to be duplicative here. We're better when we're leveraging each of our unique talents. That's kind of my team philosophy and also life philosophy, and wanting to build off of the great work that others are doing with similar goals.
I agree with you. And I think skill sets, people bring skill sets to the table that they already developed. What, Micah, what are some of the skill sets that you have used in your life that you are bringing to the table with Columbus Stand Up?
Well, I think ultimately my goal with my career and just in general has been to help the community and help the people around me as much as possible. It's kind of why I'm going into social work. And in addition to that, I come from a background of pretty extensive background of criminal justice. I was in the field for 6 years. I have 2 degrees in it. And because of that, I saw the failures in the system from the inside. And that has given me insight that I think is really unique, especially when considering, what's coming up with issue 2 with the Civilian Police Review Board. It allows me to help others educate themselves on the importance of voting on those issues and continuing beyond. Like Morgan said, I think it's really easy to get involved in the protests when they occur. But the issue is that after the protests start to fizzle out, after the hashtags start to fade away, people, don't know what else to do to continue supporting social justice. And I think that my experience and my background and just my willingness to help with the community in general helps me to push people in the right direction for reform that's really necessary for our future.
Awesome. And how about you, Kwesi? What skill sets and experience have you brought to the table that you want to really work on with Columbus Stand Up?
I think one of the things that I really brought to the table with the campaign that obviously extended to the Stand Up mission is just my network and having relationships with people in from different walks of life and being able to communicate different things. I've experienced the levels of nuance in my life that I look to kind of find generalizations so that everybody can kind of understand that nobody's too far away from struggle, Again, I apologize. I'm working today. I'm actually doing outreach right now, so we're looking to help some homeless individuals to make sure that they have all the resources that they need. But yeah, that's just kind of it. Like my passion to want to do something. I mean, we're obviously in a pivotal year and a pivotal moment, and I think a lot of these things just came together. I've remarked to Morgan so many times that I couldn't imagine having to dealing with COVID in 2020 without having had the team that we assembled and having the mission and the hope, even though we didn't win our campaign, which was a blow, but the hope of having like-minded individuals looking to work with us and, finding commonality. And I'm going to go back to mute. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's definitely it. Just meeting like-minded people and helping create that narrative to connect us.
I hear you. And we have about 1 minute left. Morgan, I'd like you to tell us about an event that you're hosting. It's called The Count, a practical guide to defending the Constitution in a contested 2020 election. You have about a minute. Just give us about 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this is actually, hosting maybe is a little strong. I'm kicking it off, okay. But there are a couple of national organizers, Becky Bond, Zach Mallitz, who have been involved with some of the prior presidential campaigns, who now are focused on election integrity. This election, obviously very important. We have a president, vice president who have already indicated that they have no respect for the rule of law and won't commit publicly to a peaceful transfer of power. Hopefully all of it is moot because Biden's able to win in a landslide and we don't get to that point. But in the chance that it's close, we should be prepared for whatever may happen and what tactics might be used. And so the presentation on Sunday is going to be Zach and Becky walking through what that strategy would look like. No surprise, the best strategy is always people hitting the streets and mobilizing and speaking out for what we believe in. And in this point, I think we need to speak out for respecting the results of the election and the will of the people.
All right, so how can people reach you again? What's your website?
Website standup.org, and then also continue to follow same social platform, MH4OH. We post about what we're doing with Columbus Stand Up as well.
All right, thanks so much. That's my time. Thank you for your work, and thanks for getting people to the polls.
Thank you, Carolyn. Great to be back.
Thank you.